Hello again guys, and welcome back to another Big Al Devlin video here at the House of Devlin, and this is how to learn bartitsu. Okay, this is the second video in my series. In the first video we went over how to deliver light strikes. Now this is my interpretation of the martial art, so it will not necessarily match everything that you've read before in books or online or been taught in the gym or anything like this. This is my interpretation of how to use it in self-defense in the most effective way possible. And that's just before we start. I always have to say this at the beginning of every video. Please understand this is 100% for self-defense only. I am not trying to teach you to be able to hurt people. This is for when people are trying to hurt you and you have no other option to defend yourself, because most likely you are going to be more vulnerable than the average individual if you require a walking stick to walk, like myself. And this gives you an edge, especially against edged weapons. Okay, so if someone pulls a knife on you, you have something at least to defend yourself with. But my advice would be to try to avoid those situations to start off with. Don't put yourself in positions where you know commonly knife crime or gun crime occurs, or even just simple mugging and fights and stuff like this. And if it does, you try and keep away from it when you can see someone is potentially a threat, and you try to verbally get rid of them. But if you're cornered, or you're just pushed to the point where you can no longer continue, to basically tell the person to, warning them, I will hurt you, then of course self-defense is a necessity. Or if they make a strike at you, then of course self-defense becomes an absolute necessity at this point. Last video, just to recap, I'm using here my Cane Master cane. I did a review on it. Please go look at it if you want to learn more about the cane. But we learned, because this is the most common type of shape of cane out there really for most people, so it's what we're going to be learning on. But I do have a second cane here, display different techniques, because not all techniques work with the same type of cane. Okay, however, just to refer back to the previous session, which was light strikes and grip. First of all, we go from, this is how we normally walk with the walking stick. What we do is we go into that to form our grip and bring it out here. Okay, in doing so, what we are doing, we are taking the stick and we are pulling it away from the opponent that is in front of us. Okay, because we do not want them to take this off us. One, we may need it to keep upright and balanced, and to walk, so it's a mobility thing as well. But also secondly, this is a stick, this is a cane, and if they take it from you, they will use it not as a self-defense tool as you will be using it. They will be using it against you as a weapon to hurt you, and they will not stop once you are disabled, once you're put down on the ground or whatever, once you're no longer a threat. They will continue until they've really hurt you, because that's the nature of the world. Okay, and this is our attempt to make the world a little bit safer for you and other vulnerable people out there. Okay, not that we'd like to consider ourselves vulnerable. Right, so we grip, we bring it back to keep it away from them, but also to put it in optimum position to strike with. And what we do, it's all in the wrist, remember, that's the key point I'm trying to sort of go back over again. It's all in the wrist. You're not trying to hit them really hard, with your arm and your shoulder strength and all that. I'm a big guy, I could hit hard, but it will not do much damage compared to a nice wrist snap. Okay, even if I was to keep it here, you can see how quick that is. Okay, and of course there are high strikes to the head, medium strikes to the arm. Especially if they've got a knife, you hit them straight across the arm there, they might drop the knife, or you can go bang low to the knee. Okay, so high, medium, low. Okay, they all kind of look the same on camera, I'm aware of that, but that's what we learnt. Okay, now I promised to teach you thrusting attacks, which I will do in the third video, but also heavy strikes. Now the reason why I'm doing heavy strikes is because heavy strikes are attacks that finish very quickly, and that's what we want. Oops, I'm losing my balance. That's why I have a walking stick, I've got bad balance. Right, the reason we use heavy strikes is because they end the fight or the encounter quickly. And that's exactly what you want to do, because the longer a fight goes on, the more chance there is of you as the defendant, as the victim, getting hurt. And we don't want that. We want you safe. We don't want you getting hurt, okay? You are an innocent. And so when light strikes are fantastic, especially for an initial blow or a warning blow or anything along those lines, okay? They're fantastic, they're super quick, they're hard to catch, and they do a lot of damage, okay? Just because they're called light strikes doesn't mean that they don't hurt. They really hurt, okay? And a single light strike can end a fight. And if you're accurate, you can disable certain parts. When you do a light strike to the head or the neck, preferably the neck, okay, that is, although the problem is with aiming for the neck, you can hit the shoulder and bounce off, but then you might still clip the head, but it's not going to necessarily finish the fight. But if you hit them in the neck or around the head area, you can end the fight immediately with a light strike. Here, that's for disarming, of course. Then if they have a knife, you can do a swipe, okay? But of course, if they're right-handed and you're right-handed, that swipe's going to hit their non-knife arm. And that's why I said, if you go in and you miss, or you come from this position instead, of course, you've got the reverse light strike, okay? And that can be very nice to sweep their arm that carries the knife. So we've gone over, as I say, the first lesson there, pretty much in its completion. So forward strikes and reverse strikes, okay? And the reasons why we do certain things. But heavy strikes, as I say, are there to end the fight quickly. Now, I've got to be careful with these. I've got to be careful with these, unfortunately, because we have a chandelier in here. And during my practice, just before doing this video, when I was just going over things, I hit it and took a few crystals off. So, naughty me, okay? Don't let the missus know, okay? But anyway, proves how much damage these things can do. Luckily, it's not too visible, okay? And I didn't break the actual bulbs. So there we go. So heavy strikes, we use them to end the fight quickly. You can open up with a heavy strike, but there are certain disadvantages to them. The disadvantage of a heavy strike is it is slower than a light strike, and on top of that, it requires a two-handed approach, okay? Now, if you are using the walking stick, obviously, as you can see, sometimes I fall a little bit to the left. That's why I have a walking stick, to try and keep myself balanced. I try to lean my weight over here and keep it away from my left side, because that's where I have my balance issues from brain damage. But what happens is, with a heavy strike, normally with a light strike, you've got one hand out in front of you to push them away. So you've got two weapons. You've got the cane and your hand, okay? And that's a very defensive mechanism. It's great for pushing and creating distance. So you can push and then bang, hit them, okay? So it's a two-pronged effect. Also, it's very good for keeping balance. So I can keep my hand over here and keep balance, whereas if it's down here, I might be a bit more off-footed, okay? And the problem with heavy strikes is they require two hands to deliver. They're also a little bit harder to deliver in some respects. If you do have arthritis of the wrist, or you do have a bad grip or anything like this, or your stick is wet, I noticed in the previous video that I filmed, as I was practicing more and more, my hands were starting to get a little bit sweaty, things like this. The stick was actually starting to come out of my hand, and it was becoming a liability for me to do light strikes, because simply put, as I did it, I almost let go of the stick, okay? So the advantage of a heavy strike, well, the disadvantage, as I say, is balance, but the advantage is, because you're holding it two-handed, you're far less likely to drop your stick or have it taken away from you. So if you hit them and it doesn't bounce off them, or you don't return quickly enough, you hit them and they try to grab it, you've got this crook here to hold on to the walking stick, and you've got this hand here. So you've got a real good pushing motion. If you can rip it out, bang, you can snap back with a thrust attack, which we'll do, as I say, in the third video. But the heavy strike, as I say, there are two variants of the heavy strike, which I would deem valid with this type of stick. And then what I'll do is I'll show you the heavy strikes with a more typical, more sort of walking actual cane, sort of like you'd expect in not the opera and stuff. A lot of people have those kind of handles on top rather than the crook also, and I want to show you the difference on how you would fight with both, because it is very, very different, because that is a lot heavier at one end than this, which is a lot more balanced. Okay, now the heavy strike is exactly the same in all principles to the light strike, so you've already learned half the stuff that you need to know. That's the good news, okay, in the sense that when the person comes to you, you get into your grip like I've just done then. You can see how quickly I can do it. I was doing it whilst talking to you. It's very easy. But then you put your second hand, your off hand. So I'm right-handed, so that's my dominant hand. My off hand is left hand, and I put that into the crook, as you can see. Okay, just like that. Okay, so it's like holding a long sword in some respects. But the key thing is not to grip it super tight. In fact, actually, this hand, almost you could just palm it in some degree, because this is where the power comes from. In the light strikes, sit the chandelier again, in the light strikes, it's all coming from the right, your dominant hand, from the wrist of your dominant hand, the power. With this, the power's coming from a pull on the stick from your left hand. If I keep my right hand here still, it's that causes the whipping action, and it's the right hand that then drives it through. The right hand's kind of driving it through, adding power, adding your body weight to the strike, but it's bang, it's the pull that makes it fast and snappy, and it's the return. Once you've done that snap, which I'll do quickly in a minute, the return is simply pushing your left hand back up here so you can return back to normal position, bang. So there is no real reverse strike with this, okay? There is, and I'll show you how to do it, because you just swap into there, but you're exposing yourself very heavily here, and it's not the best position to do. But if you find yourself having to do that, you can come in with a slightly different angle, I suppose, to take the opponent by surprise. Okay, so a heavy strike, as I say, you get your hand in the same grip as you did before. You put your off hand in the crook of your cane, or well, yeah, it's going to only really be done with these ones. Heavy strikes on those kind of sticks, I'll show you in a minute, they're a bit different. And you go straight into the same sort of position that you were with one-handed, maybe a little bit closer, okay? And as they come in, you aim for the head, arm or leg, just as before. As they come in, you go bang, and you can see how quick that is, bang, or bang. And the return's quite quick as well, okay? In fact, actually, the return is a strike in itself. But as I say, if you find yourself in that position, what you do is you simply have to step forward, you have to change your stance. If you miss and you want to follow through, or say you're fighting multiple opponents, that they're attacking you in pairs, which typically muggers do, they don't like to fight you one-on-one. What you do is you go bang, you've just smacked him, your opponent's over there, bang, you've just done him, and then bang, you've just done the third one. Okay, so it's a good way to take multiple opponents out very, 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 very quickly. If I try and display that again, it's 1, 2, 3, okay? And you can see how quickly it can be done. And that's without a lot of practice. It's not something I've practiced a huge amount, because I do like the light strikes myself. But it's a great way to defend yourself against multiple opponents. And what I would say is actually don't rush it. That last one I rushed. So you go bang, you're looking where they are, and you go bang, and then you're looking where they are, bang. And that helps you keep on your feet a lot better, because of course, as I say, you may have issues with balance like myself, issues with your legs, and you don't really want to cover too much distance. But it does allow you to take, as I say, multiple opponents out within seconds. The other advantage of a heavy strike, okay, is overhead strikes, okay? These have an advantage because, one, when you hit them on top of the head, it's not a great way to knock someone out. Hitting someone on top of the head doesn't really knock them out, but it does give them a sudden whoa shock, okay? However, if you're not aiming for the top of the head, if you hit it, well, fair enough, whatever, it's still going to hurt, but you're aiming for the clavicle, okay? The clavicle, or the collarbone, as it's sometimes called, which is the bone that connects your chest and your arm together essentially. And if you, with an overhead strike, because you're still in this position, remember, just make sure, yeah, you're still in this position. I've got to be really careful with the chandeliers here, guys, sorry. But what you're doing is you're coming in like that, okay? Now the key important thing is you don't go straight down, because if you do, you're going to hit yourself, either, you know, cane your foot, or you can hit yourself with the crook, okay? It's always a slightly sideways motion as you go down. Doesn't matter how you do it, okay? You're always coming down at an angle, okay? And that will actually help you dodge the head as well. You can still strike for the head, and if you were to strike for the head, I would strike for here, okay? If you strike there, or for the jaw. If you strike for the jaw, you'll get a knockout. If you strike here, you'll cut the eye, and blood will run into the eye, and that will blind them temporarily in one of their eyes. And people panic when they see blood, and it's actually quite easy to cut there. That's why boxers get cut in fights quite a lot, even wearing gloves. If you imagine taking a cane to here, it's going to swell and close the eye up over time. There's going to be initial blinding with blood. People see the blood, they feel that pain, they feel that throbbing from being struck there. It's a great warning blow for them to get out of there and disable half of their sight, because then every time you attack from the right, if that eye on that side is damaged, it's only temporary damage, guys, don't worry, you're not going to, you're not permanently damaging the person, but if you do damage them, then every strike that you throw from that direction, then they're going to lose their peripheral vision. So it's great for creating follow-up strikes. But remember, we're trying to end this encounter as quickly as possible. This is not a medieval battlefield where, you know, you do have to get things through like armor and stuff like this. Most of the time, these kids who try to attack you, they're going to be wearing at most a coat, like a parka, or something along those lines. But the majority, sometimes they'll even be wearing just t-shirts and that. So you've got nothing to worry about regards heavy clothing as such. And because this isn't a edged weapon, you don't have to worry about things like denim or anything like that, trying to penetrate clothing. Not a problem. This is a bludgeoning attack, okay? Now, as I say, what you'll do is you come from here and you'll go bang like that. And you can do it standing still. And you can see it's very quick, and that's a defensive aspect. If you don't want to give up your ground, bang, you hit them, and then mate comes along, bang. Or if they're expecting it, you go bang, you can hit from the other side, okay? But if you really want a lot of power because you've put your body weight in it and you close the distance, which is not always good. If they've got a knife, keep your distance. That's why I would say that, okay? But if they haven't got a knife, you want to close the distance a little bit because they're a little bit further away. And what you do is you sit forwards, bang, and it's a lot heavier. And the return strike, as I say, will simply be like with the sideways motions. It's caused by the left hand or the off hand. If you're left-handed, it'll be your right hand. If you're like me, it'll be your left hand. Okay, and it's just that return motion. And you rest it on your shoulder like that. It's a good place to keep it, because then you can come from the side or you can come over the top. Okay, you rest it like this, okay, and that's why I like heavy strikes, because you can come there, come here, you can go there, you can even swap it, okay, and then rest it here, okay. So the swap is just literally like that, and so you can switch stances a lot easier with a heavy strike also. So it's good for varying up where you hit them. It's not all coming from this side. You can bring it very easily from this side, whereas the light strike's very limited. You have to actually go into that kind of position to do it. Other heavy strikes with this type of cane involve, and one of the other advantages of heavy strikes, especially when used overhead, is you've got gravity on your side. Gravity is your friend. Gravity pulls things down. If you've got a cane coming down towards someone's head or collarbone or whatever, gravity is your friend, okay? The other way that you can use it is you reverse the cane, okay? Now, this is where a design like this comes in handy. I've got a sawtooth grip on my cane, which allows me to keep a better hold on my cane. I wouldn't always recommend this, but sometimes, you know, hey ho, you find yourself in a situation, maybe you've dropped your cane, you've had to pick it up like this, and there's someone come in, well, this is how you do it. Heavy strike is exactly the same. Rest it against the shoulder and you just go bang like this, or you go missing the chandelier, bang like that. And because this side is normally heavier than this side, it actually does do a bit more damage, okay? But you lose the advantage of having this to hold on to if they do grab it, okay? This stabilizes your grip very much. There are other things you can do. Obviously, once you've done that, you can reverse and try and pull in and stuff. It's too complicated. When people use the crook of the cane to try and drag people away or drag weapons out of people's hands and stuff, it looks great. It looks very fancy. If you're doing a martial arts demonstration, 100%, definitely, yeah, very good. And if you just want, and if you're really, really, really good, then yes, it's an option. And I'll show you actually how to use the crook of the hook, or the hook of the cane in close range sort of wrestling moves in like a fourth video where people come up close and they're trying to wrestle you or take your money out your wallet, and you're trying to keep them at a distance. You can push them away and you can use a crook to grab their head and drag it down, making it ready for a sort of strike like this, okay? But this is, again, in the future. I'm kind of getting you little snippets of what's coming up. There's a lot you can do with a stick. It's amazing. Personally, I wouldn't use the reverse overhead strike unless you absolutely have to. I mean, you could get a design like that as well, where it's edged on your stick. That just makes it more dangerous when you do it like that, especially, as I say, when you're going for the eye, causes bleeding a lot quicker. I've covered heavy strikes for this type of stick as much as I can. This is the most versatile stick that you'll ever get, okay? If you are wary of your defense, get something shaped like this. Even if you don't really like the design, you know, you have to like the way it looks to some degree, obviously. But even if you don't really think it looks a bit old-fashioned, it doesn't really matter. This is the best type of stick to have because of this, okay? This is the type of handle you want. It can be in any, it doesn't have to be wood, it can be steel, it can be chromed, it can be amber, it can be anything. But I've just gone with wood across the whole length, apart from the tip, which I modified myself. I made that metal. But, you know, yeah, basically, you know, these are the best, most versatile sticks that you can get, okay? And they're very strong. However, you may find that you have one of these, okay? Now, one of these is, I do have a collection of walking sticks, okay? This is actually made by Cold Steel. I think I've done a review on this, so please go watch the review if you want to hear more about it. But basically, this kind of stick is more like a sort of baton that almost sort of, not cheerleaders, but you know, those we don't really have parades over here in England, but you know, when people are throwing the things up in the air and catching them and that, they're a bit more like that, except they're not very well balanced, okay? This one, in fact, and they're not well balanced on purpose, by the way, okay, is very heavy at this end. This is a solid, and I'll just show you it, okay? That's probably best if I do it like this. A solid aluminium head that screws into a carbon fiber stick, okay? So this is a self-defense stick, much in the same way as that, but it is used differently, okay? It's actually quite good for thrust, well, it's okay for thrust attacks, but it really only has one way of attacking you, okay? You can use it like before with light strikes, using the carbon fiber end to rip your opponent, okay? And you can do the same thing with heavy strikes going down, and it's very quick, very good at doing it. So you can see it's a lot quicker than the metal one, okay? And because it's carbon fiber, it's gonna hurt a lot more, okay? But one of the advantages of one of these sticks is the pommel, essentially, of what, if it was a sword, it'd be called a pommel, but it's the head of the cane, okay? It is hefty as hell, you know, get something quite heavy. And the best way to do it, if you're holding it one-handed, you do need to support the weight, okay, with a bit of your forearm, because holding out like that, it's going to be quite hard. But it just does not lend itself to really one-handed strikes. It's heavy strikes only, okay? And so, you know, if you were just to be holding it like that, you would hold it, as I say, and support it with the forearm before coming in with a two-handed attack, okay? And the two-handed attack was where you're trying to hit them with this end. And this will end fights instantly. You hit someone with this, with a decent amount of speed or a decent amount of force, game over. You've won, okay? You've defended yourself, okay? And as I say, it does work very well for light strikes if you're using it two-handed, okay? So it's very good with heavy strikes. Very poor, really, in my opinion. Well, no, it's not poor, but it's not as good for light strikes. But you know, heavy strikes, it's good. It's a good, and it is good with the light strikes. I don't know why I'm poo-pooing it, but as I say, the main reason you have it is because of the head, okay? And you can imagine the heavy strikes, okay? They're not as fast, but they're fast enough, okay? And if I was to step over, if you swap sides, okay? And of course, you can come all sides like that. You can see how quick it is. And if you get hit by this, you as a mugger are not going to stand your ground. This will break bones, potentially. But that's just showing you the slightly different styles. You use the same principles, so that is nice. It's good for that. And it is good for heavy strikes reversed. But obviously, if you really want to finish them quickly, even though it's slower, okay, it's really hard to do, okay? Yeah, it is slower, but it's still fast enough. And the only thing really about this, the only negative is for thrusting, it's not as good because you don't have the hook, the help with the grip. But we'll go into thrusting in the next video. But I just wanted to show you how to use those sticks, use them in an identical manner, but you are obviously wary of the fact that they tend to be heavier in weight, certainly if they're made of those materials. But they have that secondary option of coming over the top with the very, very heavy head. Okay, I hope that helped, guys. I'll do a third video on thrusting strikes because they're great for creating distance between yourself and your opponent. It won't be a long video, I don't imagine. And then I may do a fourth video, as I say, on sort of grappling with the stick. Thank you.